All right, good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining the Open Table annual meeting. I'm really excited to welcome you all here. My name is Jill Block. I'm the president of Open Table's Board of Directors. Later this evening, I'll be joined by Janine Calabria and some other invited guests. And we're so appreciative of you being here with us this evening. Just some simple logistics to let you know about. We are on a Zoom webinar, which means that all of you have your cameras turned off and you're muted as well. We will be asking to communicate with you later on in a question and answer period, and please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of the Zoom window to ask questions, and we're going to go through that at the end with the help of my colleague, Mary Ellen McCarthy. So the purpose of tonight's meeting, the annual meeting is a chance to review the past year and provide a preview of what's coming. For the past several years, the event has also been a chance to celebrate and thank the volunteers who have been so integral to our success. And to do that, I'm hoping that maybe you'll join me in having a glass of wine as we go through this so we can celebrate you in style. And while the Zoom format works well enough for that first purpose of going through our year, it's not great for having a celebration of you. So please look for information at a later date on how we can celebrate our volunteers and thank you. But know for now that we are grateful for your help and in awe of all of the work that our volunteers do. So cheers to all of you. The other purpose of this meeting is to introduce you to our current board of directors and to the slate. We'll have a recap of the past 6 months and an evolution of the organization during COVID. We'll give you some highlights of what the current organization is, and including the view from Hudson and Concord, where we have collaborators who will be joining us. You'll hear a little bit about what's ahead and some of the things we're working about for the coming months. We'll play a little game and try to have some fun and see how well you know Open Table. And then, as I mentioned, we'll go through a question and answer period, which will be moderated by Mary Ellen McCarthy. So, as I said, please join us as we go through those. As you have questions, please enter them into the Q&A function. So the board of directors is a 15-member governing group where we are responsible for the strategic direction and fiscal oversight of Open Table's operations. We have working committees in fundraising, finance, communications, and governance. And we have representation from many of the towns in our service area. And we have the skill sets and relationships that Open Tables needs to succeed. As a group, we meet 6 times a year, but committees are meeting monthly and board members are putting in many hours beyond that. On average, we figured out that just basic meetings alone can take 66 hours a year. Some of us volunteer in the pantry and previously at the meals. And for me personally, it's been an honor to serve my community through this board and to have this as an outlet during the COVID pandemic crisis. I'm grateful that I get to share the work with the colleagues that are pictured here. So for 2020-2021, the slate of leadership on the board is as follows. As I said, I'm the president of the board. I'm joined by Mary Siegel as the vice president. Bill Thornburg is our treasurer, and Patty Chambers is our clerk. Our other members are Stephanie Cloutier, Gina Cummings, Brendan Donnellan, Michelle Fisher, Norma Fry, Bill Keller, Stephanie Lynch, Mary Ellen McCarthy, Peggy McGillan, and Joe Regali. You can read all of our bios on our website and find out more about us. We currently have 1 seat open on the board, and we know that at the conclusion of this term, we will have an additional few openings. We're constantly assessing what our needs are and where the gaps are, but if anybody listening tonight is interested in learning more about our board, please feel free to reach out to me.
I'd like to take this moment to publicly thank Jill Block. If you have a glass of wine, I'm raising it to her to toast her 7th year. Normally we have board members on our board for 2-3-year terms. And because we were in the middle of implementing our strategic plan And Jill has been so incredibly integral to that process. And given all that has happened in these past 12 months, she agreed to do a 7th year with us. And for that, that's a huge bonus, not only to me, but to this organization and to all that we serve. Thank you, Jill.
Thank you.
I also want to take a moment to toast the board. So all of you board members, if you are having a glass of wine, I am toasting you because I want to commend this board for deciding to pledge to work actively to identify all forms of bias within our programs and hiring processes, and to address those through training and program modifications. This is not just simply a statement we make on our website, but something we've committed to, and I am proud to be part of an organization who's starting from the top and working throughout the whole organization to make sure that is true, that we are a racially welcoming and racially unbiased community. Thank you.
Thank you, Janine. Appreciate that. So as you all know, COVID presented quite a challenge over the past 7 months, and we were able to adapt and change our model, and we continued to meet the crisis, and we never closed our doors. As many of you know, Janine had just begun her well-deserved sabbatical when that all started in March, and we were operating with the leadership of Jill Securis, who was a wonderful interim executive director. And Jill had no idea what she was walking into. None of us could. And I was grateful to Jill for not walking away during that very scary period. So what's changed? From the get-go, our overarching priority has been to protect the health and the safety of our staff, our guests, our volunteers, our community, and our partners. And with this in mind, all of our operations had to change. So our pantry model went from an inside market with shopping, as you see, with plenty of choices, to the fresh air drive-through model pantry in our Maynard parking lot with limited choices. Guests still come at their assigned appointment times, and for some, this arrangement is physically easier and sometimes quicker, but it's not ideal for many reasons. We went from having bins of beautifully laid out food to pre-packed bags. And shopping in our pantry was a key element of our approach to respecting guest preferences. And it also reduces waste. So currently though, guests are receiving bags of shelf-stable products, dairy, frozen proteins, which include a choice of fish, beef, pork, or chicken, and shelf-stable groceries. We're still offering kids bags, and when supplies allow, we've been able to offer specialty items such as coffees and teas, or cleaning products, or personal care items. Our pick and pack crews, like the women you see on the right here, try to create bags that are balanced and appealing, but there's nothing like choosing for yourself. The other big change that we had to make was suspending our community dinners, which we have replaced with over 400 prepared meals weekly. Suspending our dinners and the senior lunch was the first dramatic change that we had to make at Open Table, and we did it with sadness and concern. For many people, we know that these dinners fulfilled an important social need, and this loss creates a big void. But we're still feeding people though, and with a major expansion of this effort, we've been able to call in local chefs who unfortunately have not as much work to do in their own restaurants, and food coming from institutions like schools and other establishments. And we're making household-sized portions which are delivered in those grocery bags. Our dinner crew volunteers are working side by side with some of these chefs. Everybody's socially distanced, of course, and our kitchen has been creating beautiful things out of this. In fact, all elements of our operations have shifted to having the minimal number of volunteers needed to get the work done so that we can maintain that social distancing. The ground continues to shift daily, and restaurants close, schools open, maybe they'll close again, we don't know. We have to adapt our schedules and our operations as the world shifts, and we continue to do so. So to fill you in a little bit on what some of that looks like, I'm gonna turn it over to Janine, who will describe what that is.
So we're in a steady state of change, if there is such a thing. Open Table has gone through radical changes over the last 6 months. And I think today, how I would describe where we are is we've planted a lot of seeds and they're all taking root right now in the form of different kinds of programs. And I wanted to read this evening our mission statement. Our mission is to address hunger in our local community by providing healthy food and a welcoming environment while respecting the dignity of those served. We definitely continue to fulfill our mission, but not in the ways that we used to, like Jill described before. In a lot of ways, we're going through the exact same transition as our for-profit restaurant, right? They've had to close down. I see signs all over town about calling in your order, picking up your order. It's now a prepared meal. The socialization of people, the isolation of people is part of that. But we have pivoted and began creating prepared meals. Right now, we're making over 400 prepared meals a week. We're looking at how we could make more because that's a very, very sought after item in the food pantry and elsewhere. And we know that with so many families right now, not only working from home or maybe not working, but working outside of home or unemployed, also teaching their children, having a prepared meal is something we really want to make sure people can receive. So we used to have about 150 at our community meals a week. Now we're giving out 400 meals, 450 meals a week. So that's a big difference in what we were doing before. In terms of choice, this is a term that we have been hearing everywhere in every food relief organization. People are talking about how do we reincorporate this. We're probably a couple months out from having a really good online ordering system. We're looking at that and trying to figure out how Open Table will handle that. The other thing we're looking at is how do we come in from outside. Winter is coming. Nor'easters will be upon us. I don't think we can keep working under a tent. So all of these things are where we are right now. We're in a steady state of change. We're daily talking about how are we going to make these changes and how are we going to be relevant to what the need is today. We continue to meet the need. We continue to deliver our mission, but how we do it is definitely changing. Given all of that, all of the amazing transitions we've had to go through, Open Table in fiscal year 20 was still able to do some pretty serious food relief work. We delivered over 21,233 bags of groceries. We brought into our facility over 757,000 pounds of food, almost 758,000 pounds of food. It's food that comes in that we have to process and get prepared to send out again. Today, it's about 400 meals weekly, and we've impacted over 14,000 people. In May, we had a record week of serving 280 families through our drive-through food pantry. We are now operating just around 200. So these numbers are pretty staggering to me, that after going through such a radical change over the past 7 months, we never had to close, and we were able to operate at still such a very high capacity. The question is how? How could we do this? How were we able to adapt? The news in March, where many food pantries we're hearing from Greater Boston Food Bank were closing down. Those were the ones who did not have their own building, who were using borrowed space, often from faith communities or churches who felt it was not safe to remain open. Because we own our own building, we were able to use it in ways that other organizations could not have used it. We could come and go as we needed. We could change our schedule as we needed. And it was large enough to work safely with 6 feet apart from each volunteer. If it hadn't been, we couldn't really have operated if we had operated in a smaller space. The other part of this was having a truck. Being able to respond on the same day to offers of food, to be able to go and pick it up, especially if it's just-in-time food. There were many organizations that no longer could go to their regular scheduled appointments at the Greater Boston Food Bank. We were able to capitalize on that and go when we had the opportunity to go. We also have a truck driver who's skilled in using the pallet jack, a hydraulic lift, moving pallets of food. It can be dangerous. The fact that we have somebody who's trained and able to do that was a huge relief to Open Table. And last but certainly not least is our staff. Many food relief organizations are operated by retirees. And of course, as we all know, that was not the demographic we wanted to be serving people during the onset of the pandemic. Having these folks to come every day that we needed them, to be trained in how to work safely, to train our volunteers how to work safely, was a huge asset to the organization to be able to deliver our mission. I'm on the far left corner. Barbara Blankenship is our kitchen manager in Maynard. Eliza Coffin is our business administrator. Christine Evans, our development and fundraising guru. Jeff Garrity, our truck driver and pantry assistant. Heather Hernandez, a volunteer manager and also business administrator, was on maternity from June until now, has just returned. Stephanie Shinton was the Concord dinner manager, now has also been helping out in the pantry, working with us to cover for shifts, as well as cooking in the kitchen. And Rob Slattery, our operations facilities manager, incredibly helpful when we have anything that is got to be changed in our operation of bringing food in and making sure there's always a supply. He's always calmly making sure we have it. And Jill Sakaris, who was the interim director while I was gone, has joined us now as our program manager. She has had quite a bit of work cut out for her lately with bringing in so many additional programs that we didn't offer before in order to be relevant to the current need. And our newest staff members are Scarlett Chung and Tara Buck, are our Commonwealth Service Corps interns. Thank you all for your wonderful work at Open Table. Now, who else do we need to make this work? Well, we need our volunteers. There's an incredible crew of volunteers at Open Table, and they've always been an incredible crew, and the crew that was here for a very long time, taking a hiatus, still is active with doing things behind the scenes and also participating in our advisory crew, our advisory team. But the new volunteers who have come in are not used to the old ways of way things were working. They're very adaptable, very flexible, and we really appreciate having you. And we have made different policies this year where volunteers only work one shift because we're concerned about cross-contamination. There are a few of you who literally we can't work without you, so I think you're here a little more often, but thank you all for what you do. We couldn't do it without you. The other group that we often don't talk about, but are absolutely critical to our work, is our partnerships. In this photograph, you see the Lions Club. On the far right, you see Stephen Crane, the town manager of Concord. And in the middle, in the pink shirt, is John Cummings, the head of Crosby's Market. This just gives you an example of how Open Table has so many different people, community groups, religious groups, faith groups, civic groups, individuals who decide on their own to do food drives. So many people are partnering with Open Table to make sure we have the food that we need and the people we need to deliver our mission. And last but not least is you. All of you tonight, I would say, are going to be ordained ambassadors of food justice. We need each of you to tell the story of what's happening at Open Table and make sure that the people in your community are getting the food that they need. So, a little or a lot of help from our friends. That's absolutely the theme this year for our annual appeal and what we need at Open Table. So now I want to talk a little bit about these programs I keep referring to. We used to have a pantry and we had a dinner. And now we have a lot of other things. And I want to talk tonight about these things, which are really why Open Table's in transition right now. We're trying to launch several different programs that had started, were in the works before COVID hit. We're now coming up for air and actually launching some of them. This is one called Healthy Helpings, where we are training with a Tufts School of Nutrition nutritionist, dietitian, to work on creating a prepared meal that benefits people who have nutritional needs based on medical issues they might have learned about through their doctors. We're working on a diabetic line of food as well as heart healthy. We hope to be launching this in the next couple of weeks. Our interns, actually that's something they're doing. They're gathering information at our mobile programs and our drive-through programs to identify people who would like to participate. We're also, as you have heard this evening, expanding our SOS meals. Looks like we have bok choy. I'm not sure what's on top here, some kind of maybe pork dish, I'm not sure. But anyway, these are really yummy meals. People see these and they're just like our community dinners that have been so incredible over the years. There's usually a vegetable, some form of protein and a grain. We then put a label on that and freeze it and send it out in our drive-through pantry. We plan to expand that. We have submitted a grant that we're hoping to receive from the state to produce quite a few more of those. As we are learning, they're really an item that people very much would like to have more of in all of our programs. We are also learning that home deliveries are the safest way to get food to many of the people in our community. We're working with the Public Housing Authority in Concord through a survey that one of our staff members designed, and we have learned that there will probably about 50 people participating in that in the weeks to come. We have partnered with the town of Concord to share the expense of a college intern to launch that program and to use an app to design a good route for the number of volunteer pools who will go out and bring these pack bags to people's homes. We've also partnered with the COVID tracing team and Neighbor Brigade so that our facility is open every weekend to Neighbor Brigade to pick up groceries to bring to families newly diagnosed with COVID, a family member that has COVID, so that they can quarantine safely in their home and don't have to go out to get medications, food, and any kind of cleaning supplies that we could supply. And now to talk a little bit about mobile programs. We were fortunate to receive a grant from the Osterman Family Foundation over a year ago. And that grant allowed us to spend quite a bit of time planning for and designing a mobile pantry program. Miraculously, we launched that program in April, despite everything else that was going on. And we also launched today the CCHS drive-through. It's already been launched, and we are joining them to help manage that now since schools have reopened. And in Maynard, we have been partnering with the Maynard Food Pantry to do pop-up pantries in neighborhoods where there is significant need. We're also supplying the Acton Council on Aging with over 50 prepared meals weekly, and the Veterans Affairs to get those meals out to people who cannot come to us. So at this point, I am going to and how do we do all those programs? With our Commonwealth Service Corps interns. You can see here our truck driver, Jeff, on the right, pantry assistant, and then Scarlett in the middle, and Tara on the side, the left side. Scarlett is working with Rob Slattery as our operations assistant, specifically for mobile programs. And Tara is working with Jill Zakaris as a program assistant for mobile programs. They are holding their a pizza kit that they helped to put together and design that we distributed recently at a community outreach program, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. So we have wonderful staff committed to these programs, and we've done it through a wonderful grant or competitive application process with the state. Now I'm going to ask Jill if she can introduce our wonderful guest speakers.
Yes. So I'm really excited to introduce you to Kelly Callow and Callie Coughlin from the both who work out of the Hudson Health Department. They're going to talk a little bit about the program that we're doing with them in terms of our mobile programs. What many of you might not realize is how significant it is that a health department is actually doing this work. Or working to address food insecurity in their community. I have a background in public health, and it's very unusual for small local health departments to actually operate programs in this state. Boston Public Health, Cambridge City Health, big cities do a lot of preventive programming and other direct services, but the smaller local health departments are often doing things like inspections, restaurant inspections, septic inspections, and they're not as well engaged with prevention, much to our dismay, or people like myself who work in public health. So for me, it's very exciting that Kelly and Callie are part of this effort with us, and I'm going to turn it over to them, and they can share a little bit more about what they're doing. Okay, here you are.
Good morning. My name is Kelly Callow. I'm the Director of Public and Community Health for the town of Hudson. I oversee the Hudson Health Department, which works to promote health and wellness for our residents through prevention and control of disease of injury.
My name is Callie Cullen, and I'm the Mass in Motion Program Coordinator. For those of you not familiar with Mass in Motion, it's a program that's been around since 2009 and helps to build policies, systems, and environments that help promote healthy eating and active living.
When we heard about the mobile food pantry opportunity, we began brainstorming on how we could reach residents experiencing food insecurity who might not be able to access the food pantry in town for various reasons. We reached out to several agencies in town, and the Hudson Housing Authority and the Boys and Girls Club of Metro West agreed to partner with us on this exciting initiative.
The Hudson Housing Authority identified 60 households that would benefit from receiving food, as they're all low income and either elderly or disabled. A large percentage of their residents do not own or have access to a vehicle or are otherwise unable to drive a vehicle. Many of the residents are homebound and or mobility impaired and cannot leave their apartments, let alone make a trip to the grocery store or the local food pantry.
The Boys and Girls Club identified 10 families, many of whom qualify for numerous services, including SNAP, Section 8 housing, free or reduced school meals, and financial scholarships to participate in programs at the club. Some also live at the Willis House Shelter, right on Church Street in Hudson. Many of these families are stretched thin and not able to make it to local food pantry due to the limited transportation and or the limited hours that they are open. Several of the residents in both agencies simply do not have the funds to purchase enough groceries to meet their nutritional needs of their families.
We were thrilled to have our application chosen and worked closely with Open Table, the Housing Authority, and the Boys and Girls Club to plan the logistics for launching the mobile pantry. We created an application and identified households interested in participating.
Deliveries began in April in the midst of COVID-19 and occurred the first Wednesday of the month. Originally, we had envisioned the majority of the program being run by volunteers, yet it launched in the midst of COVID-19 hitting Massachusetts hard, so we had to rely heavily on staff for the first several months.
Deliveries for the 2 Housing Authority locations consisted of teams of 2 people utilizing wagons to deliver groceries to each unit participating. The Boys and Girls Club groceries were delivered to their homes. We have just begun engaging volunteers again to help with delivering the groceries for the Housing Authority locations, and the Boys and Girls Club families have begun to pick up their groceries at the club.
Prior to the program, many of the Housing Authority residents had to obtain rides from friends, neighbors, or family members to go to the grocery store or the food pantry in town. Some have had to pay for rides as they have no family or friends to help. Others are mobility impaired or were too proud to even ask. Many took the Hudson Senior Express, which coincidentally stopped running right around the time the food pantry rolled out because of COVID-19. Brigham Circle residents can take the MWRTA bus, but the bus unfortunately doesn't stop at their other location on Glen Road. As a result of these challenges, some residents rarely had fresh food.
One specific example is a woman who has been a resident at the Housing Authority for several years and uses a walker. She is severely mobility impaired with very limited funds and has no family or friends to help her. Last summer, the staff helped her transfer to another unit in the property, and in doing so, discovered that her kitchen had some boxed cereal, several cans of Spam, and a few things in her freezer. They were very surprised and really very heartbroken. The first day of the mobile pantry delivery, she looked in the bags of food with tears in her eyes and said, "Oh my, bananas."
Overall, we think the program has been super successful. We've received feedback over the last few months where residents may receive too many groceries for the size of their family, or the food they received didn't align with their dietary restrictions. So we are now in the process of getting a survey ready for the October distribution, which will address these concerns. We, along with the participants, are so grateful for our partnership with Open Table. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you both. We're so thrilled to have you with us. So.
Yes, thank you so much. It means a lot to us to have a partnership where the impact is so great. Thank you.
Us as well. Thank you so much.
Tonight, we are really fortunate to have another mobile pantry partner join us. We've gotten to know Bryce over the past couple of months. He's come in and cooked for us once for an SOS session, which we're very thankful for. Bryce is the Director of Food and Nutrition at Concord Public Schools. He has a real passion for making sure that food is normal for everyone. And I was so impressed by his story of telling me how he decided that we needed a drive-through food pantry in Concord, that I invited him this evening to tell his story. Bryce, if you could join us.
Hi, good evening, everybody. And thank you to the Open Table Board and to Janine for having me here tonight. When COVID-19 hit in mid-March, we were in the midst of transitioning a lot of our food stuffs to some more local and fresh ingredients to incorporate them in our K-12 program. We have 6 schools scattered throughout kind of Concord, and our high school serves both Concord and Carlisle. When they told us that school was being closed the next day, I shared this story with Janine. We had been in the midst of really trying to work with several students who were struggling deeply with food insecurity and understanding what this was going to do to them and their families. My district chef manager, Jessica Brown, and I immediately went over to the high school and started packing grocery bags that we knew we could get to them that day. What we didn't know in the coming weeks was that we were not going to be approved for universal free meals through the USDA because we fell well below the needed threshold for free and reduced percentages in Concord and Carlisle. Anyone familiar with that community kind of understands the socioeconomic dynamics that are there. However, none of that means that there aren't people who are in need in those communities who live on the margins and needed to be cared for during this time. We were very fortunate to engage members of the community in April and May to help support us with purchasing materials, as well as a relationship with Gaining Ground, a farm in Concord that supplied us with produce. And so for the first 2.5 months, we supplied bags of produce and dry goods to somewhere around 70 to 80 families a week. Those funds started shrinking as we got closer to the end of the school year, and there seemed to be some fatigue from the fundraising community around us. However, that was when Janine reached out to me and we connected on the mobile pantry unit that Open Table was executing in Hudson, and it was a seamless fit. I mean, it was such a wonderful partnership just from the first conversation. There was nothing that was taboo or stigmatized about any of the engagement, and it expanded our offerings immediately. We went from kind of overwhelming folks with produce and pantry goods, dry storage goods, to just an eclectic mix of meal items that we could provide, including proteins, which we weren't able to purchase before just due to the price. And with that partnership, we were able to extend the pantry through the summer months, which we were originally really concerned that we were going to have to stop doing as soon as school was over. And, you know, Jeff and Rob and Janine and Barbara and Tara and Scarlett have been there, you know, including today as we were able to relaunch the program, thanks entirely to the team at Open Table. It's just been a wonderful partnership. It's allowed us to continue to have the discussion around food insecurity, you know, the discussion around what it takes to create a community of care and a community that wants to hold every single member in a way that is loving and inclusive and thoughtful. And so we're excited to be able to continue the pantry in Concord at CCHS. We don't know what is going to happen with the school openings. So far, so good, you know, now that I say that. But it's just been an overwhelmingly positive response from the community, an overwhelmingly positive experience working with Open Table, Janine and her team. We're just so grateful to have made this connection, to be able to provide this service for our community members. One thing that I don't want to leave out is, you know, in the midst of this, we have students that come to us from the city through their METCO program. And through this entire time, we've been able to stay connected with those families by doing a drop service at Franklin Park in Boston. And so even though those students were not going to be in the community with us because of the school closures, we made sure that they had access to the same materials in the same time frame that every other member of our community had. You know, the students and the families are intertwined with the Concord school system, but also with us as providers of services. And so it was really important to us that we did then and continue to do now, stay connected with anybody who is close to us so that they have what they need. We're excited to continue this through the fall and look to kind of continue to collaborate to see how we can increase access through the winter months and into next year. Janine, thank you. Jill, thank you. To all of your board and to your teams, we're just incredibly grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Bryce. It's important to have these kinds of partnerships, and we appreciate all the things that you've been doing and how you've launched this. Thank you. I want to give us a thank you to a group that probably many of you may not even know exists at Open Table, and that is our all-volunteer grant writing team. We have a group that meets once a month with some really interesting people on this team. One who goes out and does incredible research. I always know if I get a link to some information about food insecurity and I don't have time to read it, I can send it to Linda Holt and she'll go research it for me. And I really appreciate, because this slide you're looking at tonight, Linda gave me several slides. We condensed it to one so that it would be digestible this evening for this meeting. But this slide right here is powerful, and that, you know, you look at where we were in June in 2019 and where unemployment is today. It tells a story of what we're going to be seeing in the months to come and what we're seeing now. One of the things that is different for Open Table is we have a group of people that I will call the new to need. And this is a term we learned through this census data survey across the country, that there's this group of people who are very, very food insecure. but they're not the folks that typically go to a food relief organization or participate on SNAP. So the question is, how do we as an organization and as a community reach these people, who may only want to participate in getting food relief for a short period of time. They may want to do it in a very discreet way. And I think Open Table is asking ourselves the question, how can we support these folks, this demographic, without leading with our name? And so we've been reaching out to build what I would call a bridge. And Bryce is really one of those bridges for Open Table. The CCHS drive-through to me was the epitome of a fantastic bridge because the school is so non-stigmatized. Everybody goes to the school. Anybody drives through is not going to be considered necessarily in need. There are a lot of collaborations happening right now. I think that's probably why we're in this steady state of change. You see pictured here, on the right is a woman from Meredith from the Maynard Food Pantry, who has been the leader of the backpack program, another really great way to get food to people without stigmatizing that. And on the left, we have Annalisa Campanelli, who is the new executive director of the Assabet Valley Boys and Girls Club. And we all got together and we created this event, this really fun event, where people could drive through and pick up a box to make a pizza with their family. That's what Open Table contributed. And we have produce from Gaining Ground, and we have pizza across from Stop and Shop. So it's a talk about collaboration. It's all in that box, along with a wonderful recipe that Jill Sakaris put in, and then toys from the Boys and Girls Club, and books that you could select at the table at the Maynard Food Pantry. So it really, you get a flavor for what we're trying to do here is at one of these kinds of events. We have our sticker on our box, but we're doing something really, really different than what we've done before. And of course, the following week, very interestingly, we had many families now joining us who we had seen at this event now coming to the food pantry. So making this bridge with other organizations is really important. We look for events like the grab and go lunches for the Council on Aging, the same thing. It's an opportunity for seniors to see the staff of the Council on Aging. It's not about Open Table. We provide the food, that's it. And they provide the partnership and the opportunity to make those connections. The other question you might be having right now is, with all these additional programs, how do we source the food? It's a question we're asking ourselves. Luckily, every week when I say at staff meeting to Rob Slattery, I say, do we have enough food? And he says, yep, got enough food, got plenty of food. I'm so pleased with that answer. But, part of that is, once again, collaborations with grocery stores. We have a wonderful produce from Gaining Ground. The pickup happens with the Rotary Club. The Lions Club acts as a barter in a way at Crosby's Market, saying, hey, don't forget a bag of groceries for Open Table. We have wonderful groups throughout Maynard, Concord, Sudbury who do kids bags for us. And of course, restaurants, farms, stores, individuals. I don't want to leave anybody out. All I can say is it really does take a village to source all this food. And we're very creative and very specific about what we need. And so far, we're able to source enough food for all of our programs. I'm very thankful about that. So it's an annual meeting today. What are we looking to the future for? It's a hard guess, we're trying to create a roadmap. And I think we're all really looking for a steady state. We're kind of tired of constantly changing. This week, we launched several new programs, and we hope that by the end of October, I would say that all the programs that we're going to be doing this year are stable, and that we have volunteers to staff all of them, and we have programs in place. I think that the biggest question right now is, what are we going to do in the winter time? It's the big topic among other food relief organizations too. We're hearing that, some food relief organizations are getting trailers. Unfortunately, we don't have our own parking lot. They're, you know, stashing everything in the trailer. We did have our tent this summer launch up in the air during a tropical storm, and we're thinking what's going to happen with a nor'easter. So we have reconvened our advisory team of former volunteers at Open Table to get together and talk about possibilities, and we'll feed them some of these ideas we've heard from other pantries and hopefully come up with a plan. We're going to bring back choice. We have our eye on a couple online ordering systems, and we're going to paper grocery lists. So those are getting incorporated right now. That's in the process. We're also really committed to getting food to the people most in need. And that's something I guess I call out to all of you as you're meeting people with those kinds of unemployment numbers. All of us will be looking at our neighborhoods and our communities a little differently and making sure we're making connections to people who really need food. We also are committed to keeping a safe operation with minimum cross-contamination. And we're very much looking forward to moving into our office space in November, where we can be near the activity that's happening all around us, but working safely in an office where it's not so hard to have a conversation with other staff members. I love this slide. Here's Tom Marshall. He's one of our great cooks at Open Table. He's also a Ride for Food member. I'm wearing my Ride for Food jersey. Jill's wearing hers. I promised I would put my helmet on for this part of the meeting because I'm hoping you'll join our team. That's one of the ways you can join us. You can also make a donation to any of our members on our team or to our team at Ride for Food. And if you're looking for other ways to volunteer, there's some wonderful, you simply need to email volunteer@opentable.org. We're looking for Thanksgiving teams. We're looking at Concord home delivery pools. Our annual appeal is coming out soon. We hope you'll support this. And there'll be many other new engagement opportunities. But the message I want to give to everybody here tonight, food justice is near and dear to everybody's heart. I hope that you will see yourself as an ambassador. Think about everyone who needs food. It's a basic human right to have access to healthy food. Make sure that everybody knows where they can get food in your community. With the unemployment numbers, with the isolation, we all have to do our part in making sure people are connected. So I hope you'll remember that tonight and take that away as the message of this evening. Now, in order to add a little fun to our evening, I'm going to turn it over to Eliza Coffin, who's going to lead us in our Kahoot game.
Eliza, unmute.
Thank you. I'll be leading the Kahoot. So it's pretty simple. If you could just type in on either your computer or on your phone, kahoot.it, and then it will ask you for the game pin, which I will put on the screen in just a moment, and ask for a username.
And don't forget about the prize, Eliza.
Yes, there is a prize for the winner, and you also get points for speed. Points for correct answer and points for speed. This is much better than the music they gave us when I was in high school and we played these.
I want to know who Princess Peach is.
I'll give you all another minute. I know not everyone has used Kahoot before.
You may not have had their phone standing by.
Mm-hmm.
I should have warned you guys. Eliza's mama.
From the other room. Mm-hmm. All right, one more minute and then I'm going to get started. Food machine. I like it. All right, we're going to get started. Open Table was formed in 1989 to offer what service? Weekly community dinner is correct. You guys are good. There's the leaderboard for you. Question 2. Open Table's second location was established in 2006. Where? Yes, Union Congregational Church. Very good. Not to be confused with the United Methodist Church. Okay. Where was the mobile pantry first used? Yes, Hanscom Air Force Base. Very good. Although we are now in the Maynard Municipal parking lot. Okay, last question. How many communities do we serve from our pantry? "23 is correct. All right, let's see who we got. I believe that's Brendan. Oh, that's number 3. Brendan. All right, congratulations, Brendan. Congratulations, runner-up. Brendan, we will contact you about your prize.
I think we should give prizes to everyone that just made it to
I
that.
agree. I agree. I will take note of that.
Okay, I don't know who, I'm guessing I know Ray. I'm not sure who BH is. Good job, all of you. So,
What is the prize? I'm dying to
The
know.
prize is an Open Table apron.
Oh, excellent.
maybe I can model it for you on top of my Ride for Food jersey so everybody can see these lovely items. Could have protected me while I was cooking tonight. So you these.
And now I'm going to pass it over to Mary Ellen McCarthy, who is going to moderate our Q&A. And if you have any last minute questions, you can still put those in the Q&A at the bottom.
Hello?
Hi, Mary Ellen. Now we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So we have a few questions tonight. I'm going to try to figure out who they can go to that could answer the question. The first question is, when is Everett Street going to open again? Janine?
Yeah, that's a good question. Right now, because of poor ventilation and the layout of the floor plan, it's not a safe place to bring groups in to volunteer together with. And the furnace has also stopped working. So we actually are meeting with the town next week, and I'd love to be able to say this to the 69 people on our call tonight. We're looking for space between 1,200 and 2,000 square feet on ground level where a pallet can fit through the door, where people can sort food. The ideal place would be in Crosby's parking lot, but we're looking someplace in Concord where we can bring groups in to help sort and organize food in banana boxes to use and distribute later in our food pantry.
Great, thanks, Janine. We have another question from the audience. Do we have an affiliation with Boston area gleaners? Anything about that, Janine?
We do, but not how you might think. Our our affiliation with the Gleaners is about banana boxes. We have sometimes too many banana boxes, and they come and retrieve them because they use them themselves. Excuse me, but we don't use their produce because we're very fortunate to produce from Gaining Ground and Drumlin Farm.
Great, thank you. Another question I think is going to go to you, Janine, perhaps Jill. Open Table dropped client qualifications for the pandemic. Any plan to resume that or to alter the list of towns in scope? Which one of you would like to answer that?
Could you read that again? I'm not sure what it meant.
So it sounds like the person's asking about our not needing to have the same qualifications for our clients during the pandemic, and are we going to resume that or alter the list of towns that we provide service to?
So Open Table a couple of years ago decided that we couldn't keep up with the number of people coming through. We had been open to all for many years. And the fact is we're still open to anybody who walks through the door, we give them food. But what we do now is if you're not in the 23 town community scope, we are connecting people to places that are closer to where they're from to get food services to places closer to where they live. Now, if there were a community that was a food desert and wasn't receiving any food that wanted to use a mobile pantry with Open Table, we are certainly open to that. We are actually meeting this week with another organization who is in desperate need of a mobile pantry. We're getting to the point now that we're reaching our capacity of what we can support. But certainly if there was a community that needed food that was within a reasonable driving distance, we would help. We're not supporting Worcester County. That is a community that has a lot of need. We used to support Worcester County, but because we receive our food from the Greater Boston Food Bank, and we were really pretty much maxed out with the number of people we could see at any one week, it's right around 210 in our drive-through. We have no plans to expand from the 23 towns.
Thanks, Janine. Another question. How can someone help if they can't come volunteer in the pantry? What are your needs?
Well, we definitely need people to help welcome volunteers online. We have many other jobs that are needed. Data usually is around data, organizing the data that we receive from registration forms, from volunteer forms. Certainly for fundraising, there's committees that get together to work, and they work virtually. So there's a lot of ways that you can be involved without coming into the facility. If you email volunteer@opentable.org and put in your email that you're looking for a job that does not require you to come on site, we can certainly make a connection there.
Great, thank you. A couple more questions. We'll try to wrap it up quick because I know that a lot of people want to watch the Celtics, which is on pretty soon. When will the meals at First Parish in Maynard open?
Just like restaurants, I made this comparison a couple times this evening. We're not sure. It's not safe now to open up for communal dining. The church where we were having community meals in Concord has just reopened, and they're not bringing in large groups. We are now using our dining room at 33 Main Street soon. Probably not unless we actually acquire a warehouse, and at this point we have no plans to do that.
Thanks, Janine. And there are a few suggestions that people might have for how to handle the winter. So instead of, they're not really questions, they're suggestions. I'm going to pass those on to you. But the last question for the evening is, what is Open Table's biggest need right now from the community? It could be multiple things, but how is it we can really help you is what the questioner is asking.
Well, I wish I could give you one specific thing. I mean, we need space. We need, in Concord, we need money. We need food. We need volunteers. However that fits with your current availability or resources, we appreciate any support you can give us. We certainly are open to hearing what you'd like to give us, but we need all those things. We're going into winter, we're going to need hearty soups. We always need cereal. If you want to do a food drive in your neighborhood and make people feel less isolated by coming together to do some kind of good work, we need leaders who can do that. Leadership is something we're always looking for.
Great, thank you very much, Janine. At this point, I'd like to turn it back over to Jill Block so we can close out the evening and get you folks on your way.
Thank you, Mary Ellen and Janine and everybody for participating tonight. We are grateful for both your attention this evening as well as your continuing support in all of the ways that you provided to us. We couldn't do this without you. We wouldn't want to do it without you. And I, again, raise my glass to you with a toast. If you have one, please join me. And I send you wishes for only better things and with great appreciation again for your contributions to Open Table. So to my board members, to the staff that are on here, know that you're very appreciated by all of us. And thank you for coming tonight. I hope to see you in person next year at this event and soon at the pantry if possible. Thank you and have a good night and go Celtics. It's an important game. Right? Take care, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
And if you were a winner on the Kahoot, please tell us so in the